Welcome again in this session, and in the last session we were looking into the exceptions. So we also try to uh, understand that what is the reason behind exception and what kind of like scenarios that we may get exceptions, and if there is any exception then the program will get terminated. So there are some various method available in C sharp. By using them, we can handle that particular exception. So how we can achieve this directly? You can say the one functionality that C sharp provide is using try and catch block. Just write your logic inside the try block. Okay, and as soon as you will write your logic inside the try block, uh, just like this, whenever you will get any face any kind of exception, then you just define, hey, this kind of exception I may face in future, and this is the way I am going to handle this. Okay, you may write your code here as well. That means your program will now not get terminated, and you can continue your execution even after the exception. So the first exception we found we got was divide by zero exception. We are the value of a was 9 and b was 0, and we were getting that. Now we were looking into one more example where first we have I created one object. Yeah, I created the object of this class. Okay, to access there is a class level variable defined. Okay, the string name. So I just want to assign some name. So for that, if I want to access this inside over here, then I need to create the object of the class, and then I'm giving a value. Immediately just after giving the value, I can see I have assigned null value to this. Okay, just like obj inside the try, I have assigned null value to this, and then trying to access, or I would say trying to print this obj.name. Okay, so because now the object reference has been null, so we are going to get this exception, null reference exception. Got it? Or you may like write over here as well. Okay, so whenever this object is null now, because we have made this null and we will call the name, then we are going to face an exception. Okay, okay, let's execute. The first one we already have looked into this. We will get an exception, then we need to like continue. I'll explain you. Let me face that exception. There is no error at compile time, and we'll check that. So our expected output is that, what is our expected output in this case? Yeah, you see our expected output is that first we need to print the all the A will get printed. Then this line will be executed, right? Then we'll come over here and we will face an exception. Yes, we got an exception. Now, if I'll continue, my program haven't terminated yet. This is just throwing the exception. Now, okay. Now, if I'll proceed further, then this should come inside like null reference exception, and the exception message should get printed, and yeah, and we should also get B as an output, right? Let me just a second. Okay, so yeah, here is my exception. So there are multiple ways, like you can currently I'll take one more session on this, how to debug an application. Got it? How to debug. Okay. Like there are multiple options. Let me stop. At the configuration manager level inside the Visual Studio, there are like configuration manager. So there is one option called debug. Don't worry about this. I'll explain you how to debug an application. But what is happening? The program is not getting terminated. This is giving just warning. Hey, you are getting like null reference exception over here. Do you want to stop your execution, or or just want to continue. So to continue, there are multiple ways. The first way is that just press F5. Okay, if you press F5 from keyboard, then you will continue directly. And you can press F10 as well. Then step execution would be there in the debug mode. Okay, I'll explain you that. But for now, let us say let me execute it again. Yeah. So yes, we again face the exception. And where is my console? Just a second. Here is my console. AA got printed. Now, if you want to continue, just you see there is he's saying continue. If you want to continue, then click on continue. Okay, and if you want to some investigate over here, then you may do that, like why exception is throwing, and then you can identify, yeah, I need to write and catch over here. Hey, I'm facing this exception. My object is like not is null currently. If I need to fix it or I need to handle the exception, I'll decide. Then we'll continue. Now we already have written the logic to handle this exception, right? If I'll click on continue, this continue, then directly it will come inside the null reference exception and the entire logic will get executed. Let me click on continue. So it's continued and you see the output. Hey, AA1 object reference is not set here and then B got printed, right? That means our catch is getting executed. Otherwise we will not be able to print this statement. Means there is no as such error. Our program is not getting terminated. It was just hold and was asking us, okay, in kind of we can say debug mode. This is a functionality. If you want to assign something over here, you want to continue, right? You got it?
But in that case, for first example, it didn't give such type of behavior.
Yeah. Because now we have just for deliberately we have assigned this null value, and you see the warning is already there. Right, difference for possibility of run expression. But in case of like when we assigned different kind of values, then at the runtime he will be able to notify. Now if there is any kind of this kind of warning would be there, that means the intelligence or when say compiler is already aware of this. Hey, this particular null is this particular value is null and they are trying to access something from this. So they are something I would say some built-ins in these console applications. We can disable these functions if you don't want to get. For some exceptions, they will throw the warning like this, and for some exception, like if there is no such warning, then we may proceed further. So there are some settings we can disable this. Just like for an example, where is my console? You see there are some see the if you want to automatically close this console, most of the application this will automatically console this, then you need to do some settings like enable tools options debugging automatically close the console when debugging stop, right? But now just to demonstrate to you, we are not closing this so that we can look into the output as well. Okay. Yeah. So that depends upon the exception, the type of the exception. But this works in such a way. In the real-time application, the execution will not get stopped. So I'll tell you that what we need to set over here so that our flow should not get stopped, and we should not ask in between like need to continue or not. But for now, just keep in mind that there is no there's such error. The Visual Studio is asking that, hey, you have nothing. This object is nothing but null. Do you want to continue or handle the exception? This kind of intelligence is artificial intelligence is working that they have applied, nothing else. Okay. And yeah, so always keep in mind, like we can write exception E also. You may do it if needed, but try to avoid this and write in custom exception. Just like if you have doubt that you may face either null reference due to this, or you may face the divide by zero exception. Then only create and separate caches and handle it accordingly. Okay. Any question? Okay. 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 We'll in like in Selenium as well. we will create a separate class for exceptions, and we will face many exceptions over there. Null pointer exception, no such element exception. Okay, text related to some text and all those stuff. So don't worry about this. This is the thing that we have to handle every day in Selenium. So okay, we'll look over there as well. But for now, just keep in mind that if I'll face any error, then by using try and catch, I need to handle that error. That's it. Okay, and there is one more keyword that is called throw keyword in C sharp. So what is throw keyword? Now we have there are total we in exception handling topic we are going to look around four things. One is try, another is catch, finally and throw. Okay, try and catch we already have looked. Now we are going to look into the throw keyword. Let me create a separate class for that. Let us say my class name is throw keyword. Okay. So now this throw keyword is not to use to handle any kind of exception, but there might be some scenarios where you need to forcefully throw some error. Okay, if you want to throw an exception, then you have to use this. Okay, otherwise like this is not going to handle, but we need to, if you want to throw an exception, then use the throw keyword. Okay, so okay. Let's say if you want to throw your own exception, how to throw it? Let's create one main method, not virtual. We need to create static void main, and let us say the syntax is like this: throw new. So you may give a custom exception name or just like exception, and you may define like what kind of exception you want to throw. You can give, because there are some limited exceptions that C sharp can throw. There might be a number of exceptions, whatever custom exceptions. So everything they cannot develop. So they are giving us the opportunity. Hey, you may create your custom exception as well. So let us say I am throwing, let us say Ankit exception. Okay, there is an exception called Ankit exception. So we are going to face this. Now let us say if you'll face any exception, then how to handle that? Using try catch block. So let us say try, you have write and try. Okay, and catch. Okay, in catch, what you are going to write over here? If because whatever you have done, you just used a keyword called throw, and new exceptions means directly creating an object of the exception class. Okay, there is no like object reference is available directly. We need to create an object of the exception and use the throw keyword. Okay, then what kind of exception we wanna catch over here? Obviously, we can say the exception type, because we don't know like what kind of exception we are going to get. That's why we have taken it generic exception this time. Okay, and let us print over here something like that. Some exception is coming, right? And you may print extract track as well, e dot ex. This time the variable name is ex dot message or stack track. You need to print it. Okay, so you are forcefully throwing. Why you throw, I'll tell you, but like this is how you can throw an exception, and further if you need to handle it, then you may do it like this. So let me first execute it and we'll see like we are able to successfully able to throw this exception or not. So for that, if I need this to execute this main method, then I need to set startup. Okay, and now let's execute it. Oh, we have closed this. Let me close this and execute it again. Yeah, but okay, no need. This through some exception is coming. Ankit exception. The message is Ankit exception. You see, both of the things got printed. Our execution first come over here, then inside this an exception we are throwing, and over here we are handling the exception that we have just thrown. Okay, then this line got printed, an exception is coming, and next e dot x dot accept this particular reference variable dot message means what is the exception. So Ankit exception is there, right? So this is how we got the output. Some exception is coming. So what is the practical use of this? Why we need to throw an exception? So there are might be n number of scenarios in practically in my framework as well in which I am working. I have used this throw keyword many times because there are might be conditions like let us say we have some call. Let us say we have some variable called string. There are some data is equal to, let us say 1 2 3. So I'll fetch this data. Maybe this data will be coming from that Excel sheet or JSON. Most of the time we have used JSON is much faster and easy to use in the JSON file. I'll also implement the JSON in framework. So yeah, this is trending. Okay, this is JavaScript object notation. So inside the JSON, my data is coming. Data can be anything. Might be some email IDs are there. Some test data is there. Okay. So the data should always be there. If there is no SS data, then we don't want to execute our program again. Okay, we want some exception, or we want to throw, or we want to stop the program. Hey, if the tester haven't defined some data inside the JSON, then don't need to execute the program because there would be no SS data. Like if username and password are not there, right? Then how is it possible to log in into this is just an example. If username and password is not there, then it's not possible. So if you are going to check if your username is null, let us say username data is null or something like that, then directly through an exception, hey, this is null and you cannot proceed further. So furthermore, you may have condition like this. If data is equals to null, then what you need to do, try directly throw an exception. Okay, and handle. So you may throw exception you don't want to. So give your custom name like like null data exception, whatever name you want to give, throwing null data exception. Okay, else whatever operation you want to do. Continue program. Right. So if there is any entry that is missing inside the Excel sheet, immediately stop the program. Okay, otherwise just keep going on. Let me comment it over here, or you may handle that as well. Just print the message so that in the logger file you will get, hey, my data was not there, or simply you may stop over here. So what is the exception? Do I need to remove it? Okay, semicolon. Yeah. So null data exception would be there. So if I'll execute this, so we are going to face an exception called null data exception. Program continue this time, right? Why program continue? Because the data is already there. That's why the program is continued, no exception. And if let me assign this data is equal to null. Now let us see what will happen. That you see there is an exception called null data reference. If you will continue this, then there is an error, right? As executed code with this null data exception. Okay. Unhandled exception system dot null data exception. You see at this line and the program got terminated. Right? All these lines. If you have something after this, let me print something after this. CW dot write line. Let us say if I have something over there, let us say let's print the star. So will this get printed or not if I'm throwing an exception over here? If I'm using the try catch, then yeah, this will get executed. But no, I haven't handled this. I just thrown an exception forcefully so that I can terminate the program if my data is itself null, because I would not able will not be able to continue the testing. So in my current application, there are some scenarios like we are working for a client called Disney. So Disney, you know, the cartoon, so they have their live shows in the US. For them, they have to the customer can book the ticket. There are multiple kind of tickets are there, some VIP tickets, some general tickets. So they have to book their tickets payment through payment gateway and then just go on the date. So everything like the gateway is already available over there. Just like in India, we have Make My Trip. So we have used through exception sometimes. So for an example, if I have to book an particular show. So if the ticket itself is not blank, then we have terminated the program. Okay, if we have checked that we have particular tickets, open tickets or not, or if all the tickets are being booked, then we have thrown an error. Hey, there is no ticket available. And on that, in the Selenium test, we have logged this inside the, I would say there is a logger file. Inside the logger file, we have just printed this message. Hey, these particular tickets are not available for this event. You see, so in such a scenario, we can use this. Okay. So will this line will get printed? No, the program itself will get terminated. Let us say. So come over here because we are on debug mode yet. Otherwise, it will directly throw an error. And now continue. Just click on continue. The program execution got stuff, and you see null reference exception, and nothing got printed. Nothing got printed. Not e.print stack track, not message EAO. This is the error. Program error at line number 28. This your program has been stored. This is my line number 28, right? So in Selenium as well, just like we have web page. It's like web page. In web page, we have elements, right? The locate, we have to locate the element, and accordingly we need to do the operations, like we need to click on that element or do some send keys, get some attribute, whatever we want. So inside the web page, if the web page itself is not available, for an example, we want to locate the username and username is not located, then Selenium has some inbuilt exception. We may get like no such element exception. No such element exception. But there are other things as well. Okay. There are might be just like this is an element E. So if element E is not available, then we are going to get no such element exception. But we are like some other properties of the element, just like we are getting the element class name or text. There are some other properties as well. So if element even property is missing, let us say even property is missing, any property, then we need to throw, because there is no exception in Selenium for any kind of properties. They have the exception for the element, but no exception for the properties. Okay, we'll see it practically. So we may forcefully throw an exception, just like throw an exception called let us say element property exception, right? Any exception we may throw it like this. So I hope is this clear to you? Why to use try catch, when to use try catch, why to use throw, in which case you need to use throw. Is it clear? Any question?
Yeah, throw means you want to deliberately
Yeah,
throw an exception,
exactly.
and try catch is while program is running and there is an exception, you can handle it through try catch.
Yeah, yeah. So for an example, over here, you deliberately have thrown an exception, but if you want to catch this as well, then you can use the try catch over here. Just write this exception inside and try block.
Okay.
Yeah, just like this and catch over here, just like this. Hey, if you are getting any exception, just simply catch this. If you don't want to print this or anything over here, it's okay. Whether it's good to log that what kind of exception you are going to get. It's good to print that, though that is a good practice. So now this star should get printed. Although we have thrown an exception, but we are going to handle at the same time using try catch, and this should get printed. Let me execute it. Mm, do it again. Stop it. Yeah, you see these star got printed this time. We threw an error through an exception, but we have handled that as well. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Now we have one more. I would say keyword. This was the throw keyword, and when we have more keyword, that is known as throw keyword. Sorry, finally keyword. Okay. Let us say let's create one more class to understand that. Class called finally. Okay. So why finally keyword is used? So in C sharp, finally code block is used to execute important code, which is to be executed whether exception is handled or not. It must be just defined just after the try and catch block. Okay, whether you get any exception or not, that doesn't matter. This finally will always get executed. Okay, so directly let me let, I would say svm a public static void, man. Today I'm a little bit lost, so please bear with me. I was somewhere else. Okay, now we have man method and we need to look into the finally keyword. So how finally works? Let's look into this simply. Then we may take some other examples as well. Let us say uh, you have just like a is equal to 10. Okay, some variable, maybe integer, let us say b is equal to 20, or this time we have 0. Now I need to perform some operations just like A divide by B. Okay. Now, will I get any exception over here? Definitely I'll get that. We have seen that, right? Divide by zero exception. But now I need to handle this. Let us say try. I need to handle this. How to handle? Just use the try and catch. Inside the catch, write the custom exception like divide by zero exception. Divide by zero exception. That is an inbuilt exception class inside the Selenium. Okay. You can see console.writeLine exception dot message, or you can directly write the exception. Okay. Message would be fine so that you would be able to analyze what kind of exception you are. Now the finally we have to write just after the try and catch, you need to write an finally keyword over here, just like the same. These are the keywords in C# in this color, like try, catch, and all, right? In, I would say, in kind of blue color, purple color. So finally keyword, just two curly braces, similarly like try block. There is no much differences, just like this is try and this is finally. So always write it like console.writeLine. I would say finally executed. Okay. And let's see, I have outside these methods. Let us say I have something. Continue. Or I would like to say continue the execution. It's okay. So what this finally will do, for an example, let us say if you execute this program, you faced some exception, right? If the exception is there, then this particular line of code will going to handle the exception, right? This particular line of code will going to handle the exception and the catch block, and then the further operation will take place. So this finally block is always be executed when this catch block will be executed. Only when we face any kind of exception. If there is no exception, then that catch will not get executed. But this finally will be always get executed, whether we have any exception or not. There might be some practical scenarios. For an example, you have opened an file, just like doing that automation testing. You have opened any file or open any page, and you are locating something over there, but you didn't find that. So there might be any exception. But whenever you are handling an exception, always you have to close that file, otherwise that may create some problems. So to close that file, you may write the logic inside finally block, right? So there might be like n number of examples of this. Got it? Let us say execute this. To execute this, finally keyword. Yeah, let me execute it. What would be the expected output of mine? I should get attempted by zero, finally block, and then rest of the code. You see, you have got the correct output. Analyze this. You see, finally attempted the exception we got. At which line number this is getting printed in, we are, that means we are inside the catch block now. We have got some exceptions. We are trying to divide 10 by 0 and we have encountered an exception inside try. So just after a try, you see which statement got printed, the finally executed, right? And then because this message is coming, this particular message is coming from the catch finally keyword and continue to execution keyword. Got it? Means if we have faced an error, then which or finally code has been executed. Okay. Now let me make it 10 divided by 1. Let me execute it. You see, this time the catch is not there. Catch is not there even though the catch is not there even though like that finally has been executed and your program is being continued, right? So you get that exception? Any confusion?
No.
Okay. So I guess that is enough for this this exception handling. You always keep in mind there might be some interview questions. If there's a see like there might be some error. We got stack overflow error. You remember, if you have remembered, then we have looked into the stack overflow error. So interviewer may ask you that what is the difference between error and exception? Yeah, so error is different, exception is different. So you have to give the smart answers like what is the exception and what is the error. Error might be related to the system or might be to the environment, related to the configuration memory, right? But exception is something else due to some logic, and we frequently used to get some exceptions while writing the code, and simultaneously we have to, I would say, we have to handle that. This is the main thing, and other that I already have given you some notes. This is enough. Like questions might be like this: hey, can we have multiple catch block with a single try? Right? Questions can be like this as well. And there might be some practical scenarios as well. They have like given you some code and there are some try catches over there, and you have to, if you are going for the interview for SDET profile, then there might be some logical programming questions as well. There might be multiple catches block, multiple try block, and at the end you have to guess that what would be the output of this, how would that got be handled. Okay, so in simple words, let us say in simple words, how does it work? This is very simple. Just keep this block in mind. Let me add a new slide. Oh, let's open the pen. Always, if you are using the try, then inside the try, what would be there? Put the code here that may raise or throw exception. And inside the catch, what you have to define? catch. What you need to define? Just need to handle exception here, and the keyword is finally, then there would be, I can say final cleanup code. Okay, so just keep in this mind. These are the three tools that we have to use in the real time as well. Okay, so I think that is enough, and there are a couple of topics that we are left with in terms of have we completed that string manipulation? If you remember string manipulation.
No, we have not
Yeah,
covered.
so we have to look into that string manipulation. I already have note like what I need to cover in terms of automation. So we also need to look into the base class, just like in Java we have super class. Here we have base class concept. So this that was just a 10-minute concept, like what is the base class, how to access the base class methods and constructors. And yeah, apart from that, there are very less topic that we are left with. One is exception handling is already there, and string manipulation, and we also need to look into the access modifiers. Okay, this was like my core sequence, so that everything we will also look into these internal public, what is these access modifiers. Yeah, yeah, so there are maybe 3-4 sessions that we have to that we are left with. So we'll do it slowly. If you want to make it fast, then it's fine for me as well, but I don't want to hurry. Like things should be clear. It may take time, it's fine. Yeah, so that's